And we're learning about the 17-year-old who's connected to a shooting spree across Austin. He was denied bond and has an ICE detainer. 3 teenagers are accused in a dozen shootings that happened over the weekend. And while one of the suspects has been identified because he's considered an adult, the other 2 aren't because of their age. Meredith Aldis has those details for us.
17-year-old Christian Mondragon had his first court appearance since being arrested following the weekend shooting spree. He's charged with 6 felonies. His co-defendants, 15 and 16-year-old, are going through a different justice system. After a weekend of violence across Austin, police arrested a 17-year-old and detained a 15 and 16-year-old in connection to the shooting spree. In Texas, that age matters.
For purposes of the criminal justice system in Texas, once you turn 17, you're an adult.
That's why the 17-year-old has been identified as Christian Mondragon, while the other 2 remain protected under juvenile law. But that doesn't necessarily mean the younger teens won't face consequences.
Depending on the severity of the charges, what their role was in the case, if they have any prior history, then the juvenile court does have, some wiggle room as far as like how they will handle it.
Juvenile defense attorney Katie Bortz says in more serious cases, a juvenile can be tried as an adult.
The juvenile court process could decide that they're going to certify the child as an adult and they could be transferred to the adult court.
Otherwise, the case would stay inside the juvenile justice system.
The juvenile process is really more focused on rehabilitation. And so versus a more punitive process when it comes to adults.
And turning 17 doesn't automatically mean a teenager walks free. Bort says some juveniles can receive what's called a determinate sentence, meaning they could start their time in the juvenile system, then be transferred into the adult system once they get older.
And so they could have part of their sentence in the Texas Juvenile Justice Department, which is the prison system for kids. And then when they get older, then they could ultimately be either put on parole as an adult, or they could be sent to the adult prison system.
Other juveniles could receive an indeterminate sentence where they stay in the juvenile justice system until they complete certain programs or treatments.
It really is for the child to complete the phases of the programs. So it could go fast, depending on how well they do, or it could drag out.
That rehabilitation can include mental health treatment, substance abuse programs, and therapy.
If the juvenile system really works, they can learn, they can get the resources, they can get the support that they need, and move forward and be productive citizens.
But some law enforcement leaders argue the current system isn't doing enough to stop repeat offenders.
We see the same juvenile offenders stealing cars over and over again. And then they also commit violent crime.
Austin Police Association President Michael Bullock says many young offenders know they likely won't face the same level of punishment as an adult.
A lot of them have become aware that not much happens until maybe you're 17 and you can be tried as an adult.
He says there has to be accountability.
There's a lot of things that absolutely they can be rehabilitated. They're learning lessons, like they are kids to a degree. But then guns, stealing, shooting sprees, we have to be willing to draw the line somewhere, even if you're a juvenile.
Mondragon is charged with 2 counts of unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, 2 counts of aggravated assault with a motor vehicle, theft of firearms, and evading arrest with a motor vehicle. Prosecutors said as the investigation continues, he may face additional charges, and he's set to stay behind bars because he was given no bond. One of the reasons prosecutors pushed for this was because of the safety risk for the community, but also because he's not a U.S. citizen. He currently has an ICE hold, and if he were able to bond out, he could be deported. Reporting in the newsroom, Meredith Aldis, River City News.
This morning, we're learning more from the owner of an Austin gun store who says one of the guns used in the shooting spree over the weekend was stolen from him. Mark Bittnell has our story.
They just looked at me like, what do we do? And it was just fight or flight.
The moments a man from Manor came face to face with the suspects wanted in connection to a dozen shootings.
Well, I came home, was trying to enjoy a nap when I heard sirens and all that. My dog barking, got up, SWAT up and down the road.
Justin Newland had just made it home when a manhunt began near FM 973 and 290 in Manor. Police were looking for 3 teenagers wanted in connection to 12 different shootings in Austin.
I noticed my barn doors were open, which I did leave open, and I decided at that time to go ahead and clear them to make sure nobody was in there.
Newland checked the front of his barn and found it empty, but when he tried to open the side door, it wouldn't budge.
I had to literally shove my way in, and when I did, there's 2 suspects sitting right there on each side of the door.
Newland tried to close the door and told both of the suspects to remain calm.
I'm trying to flag the sheriff to come up to my house at the same time I'm going to my truck to get my gun. Well, as I'm entering my truck to get my gun, I hear them running out behind me.
Newland then chased after one of the teenagers, gun in hand.
I eventually cornered him at the fence line and held him at gunpoint until state troopers and SWAT were able to capture him.
Eventually, all 3 suspects were detained after a multiple-hour search. They are confirmed to be 17, 16, and 15 years old. They had been involved with 12 separate shootings across Austin in just 24 hours. Used during the spree, a gun stolen from an Austin gun shop.
They've come into the gun store apparently 4 other times to try to steal guns from us, 4 separate times.
Michael Cargill, the owner of Central Texas Gun Works, says the gun was stolen from his store. He claims 2 of the suspects in the Austin shooting spree had repeatedly tried to steal from him. In January, one of the teenagers, 17-year-old Christian Mondragon, ran out of Cargill's store with a gun before he was cornered on a Cap Metro bus. He was apprehended by APD, but eventually released.
Unbeknownst to me, he was released from that system into the custody of his parents or custodian or guardian.
Cargill says Mondragon was then a part of the group which stole another gun from him on Saturday. A different teenager who Cargill was unfamiliar with came into the store before running out with a gun and jumping into a getaway car. But when it comes to how the teenager was able to get his hands on the gun inside the store, Cargill says he wasn't aware they were underage.
We didn't know they were teenagers. Even when the Austin Police Department showed up and we showed the video to them, they thought they were 20 years of age.
So, but if we were to walk in there and just say, can I look at this gun, I wouldn't have to show an ID for that, correct?
Not initially.
I'm Atiana San Miguel. Thank you for watching our story. If you would like to see more like it, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, be sure to watch us weekday mornings at 7 and 11 a.m. on KCWX. See you on the next one.